the Yuba County 5, 1978. It was supposed to be a simple Friday night. On February 24, 1978, 5 young men from Yuba County, California, close friends bound by a shared love for basketball and routines, piled into a 1969 Mercury Montego and headed to Chico State to watch a college game. Ted Wire, Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Jackie Hewitt, and Gary Mathias, all between the ages of 24 and 32, were part of a vocational program for individuals with mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions. For weeks, they had been excited about their own Special Olympics-sponsored game the following morning. None of them made it home. The evening unfolded with ordinary details. They watched the game, cheered on their team, and afterward stopped at Bears Market in Chico shortly before closing. A store clerk later described them as cheerful, joking around while buying candy bars, soda, and snacks. There was nothing unusual until they vanished. Their car was found 4 days later, abandoned on a remote mountain road in the Plumas National Forest. What followed would become one of California's most confounding cold cases, one that still haunts investigators, families, and forensic experts alike. The car, Jack Madruga's prized Mercury, was discovered 70 miles northeast of their expected route home, stuck in the snow along a rugged logging road. Oddly, the car was not seriously damaged. It had a quarter tank of gas left, and investigators determined it could have been pushed free with minimal effort. Yet the keys were missing. Inside were food wrappers from their recent stop, folded maps, and personal belongings. No sign of the 5 men. No footsteps in the snow, no struggle, just silence in the forest. The Plumas and Butte County Sheriff's Departments immediately launched a search, joined by the U.S. Forest Service and local volunteers. But heavy snowfall made the terrain treacherous, and with no obvious direction, the leads quickly thinned. Helicopters scanned the area, while deputies canvassed nearby cabins, parks, and trails. Tips poured in, but none led to the missing men. One local man, Joseph Shans, came forward with a chilling statement. That same night, while his car was stranded nearby due to a medical emergency, he'd seen headlights and heard voices, what sounded like a group and possibly a woman with a baby. His account was erratic due to his condition, but it gave searchers a reason to believe others may have been on the mountain that night. Months passed. The snow began to melt. Then, in June 1978, the nightmare deepened. On June 4th, a group of motorcyclists stumbled upon a U.S. Forest Service trailer near the Daniel Zink campground, about 19.4 miles from where the Montego had been found. Inside the trailer was the body of 32-year-old Ted Wire. He was lying on a mattress in a back room, wrapped tightly in several sheets and wool blankets. His shoes were off. His beard had grown noticeably, and his body showed signs of severe weight loss. He had lost nearly half his body weight. Investigators concluded he may have survived for 8 to 13 weeks after their disappearance. But perhaps most disturbing, the trailer was stocked with ample supplies: rations, heating fuel, a propane tank, matches, and clothing. Almost none of it had been used. The trailer's glass window had been broken to gain entry. Yet once inside, it appeared Ted never lit the fireplace. The food locker was filled, but unopened. It was as if someone had resigned to die, surrounded by the means to survive. Nearby, the discoveries continued. The remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling were found roughly 11 miles from the abandoned car. Autopsy reports cited exposure to extreme cold as the likely cause of death. Further into the forest, Jackie Hewitt's backbone and clothing were found, scattered across the terrain. His skull was discovered later nearby. He was only 24 years old. Like the others, he had succumbed to the elements. The 5th man, Gary Mathias, was missing. Still. Inside the trailer, authorities found Gary's shoes. That detail shook everyone. It meant he had made it there. But why would he leave? Why was his body not among the others? Mathias had a documented history of psychiatric illness. Diagnosed with schizophrenia during his military service, he had been under supervised treatment and was reported to be stable, living with his parents, and actively participating in the same vocational program as the others. Authorities considered the possibility that he had suffered a psychotic break. Yet his military background and ability to survive under duress also made him the most likely to endure harsh conditions. The search radius widened. Helicopters flew grid patterns. Teams combed the surrounding woods and creek beds. Matthias's family made public appeals. Flyers were distributed statewide. Still, no trace of him has ever been found. The family struggled to make sense of it. They were close-knit, just like their sons. Each had their own questions. Why drive 70 miles into rugged, unfamiliar terrain after a basketball game they had so looked forward to? Why abandon a functioning car? Why pass up life-saving supplies in a heated trailer? And why had no one tried to call for help? Ted Wyer's family recalled how much he feared theft, so much so that he wouldn't even borrow a coat from someone else's closet without permission. Could that fear have kept him from touching government property inside the trailer? Did the group believe they weren't allowed to use the rations? Or were they waiting for someone to return? Medical experts proposed possible explanations. In cases of severe hypothermia, victims often experience disorientation, known as paradoxical undressing. There are also cases where individuals lose the ability to make rational decisions. But it didn't explain everything, especially not the presence of matches, fuel, and canned food going unused. Another theory pointed toward foul play. Sean's claim of seeing a woman and child raised eyebrows, though no corroborating evidence was ever found. Others speculated that the men were forced off course or scared into fleeing by someone they encountered. Yet no tire tracks or signs of another vehicle were found near the Montego. In 2020, a renewed public interest in the case sparked minor reviews, but no official reopening occurred. The case remains under the jurisdiction of the Yuba County Sheriff's Department, with assistance from Butte and Plumas counties. Cold case units reviewed files, but no new forensic advancements, such as forensic genealogy or DNA enhancement, could be applied without recovered biological evidence from Matthias or a known suspect. As of 2025, Gary Matthias remains a missing person in the California Department of Justice database. No credit activity, sightings, or legal documentation has surfaced in the decades since. His parents passed away never knowing what happened to their son. Some investigators believe the key to the mystery lies in understanding the group dynamic. Jack Madruga, a military veteran and the car's owner, was known to be protective and cautious. Ted Wyer was warm-hearted and gentle. Bill Sterling was deeply religious. Jackie Hewitt was the youngest and most impressionable. Gary Matthias, while vulnerable, was arguably the most street-smart. If something unexpected happened, whether fear, confusion, a confrontation, or a mechanical failure, how the group responded together may have determined their fates. Even the environment contributed to the confusion. That stretch of Oroville-Quincy Road was closed to the public in winter, yet the car was found beyond the locked gate. Authorities speculated that the car was driven around it, or that the gate had been broken and later repaired. No one knows why they went so far in that direction at night, with no extra clothing or gear. The psychology of isolation can turn even the most basic survival situation into a mental maze. One wrong decision, a refusal to light a fire, a fear of being accused of theft, the belief someone was coming to help, can spiral into tragedy. Yet this case resists neat explanations. Each detail adds weight rather than clarity. The presence of food next to starvation. The warmth of blankets near fatal cold. A car that worked, left behind. And one man, gone. The Yuba County 5 case has been compared to the Dyatlov Pass incident in Russia, where hikers died under similarly bizarre and unexplained conditions. In both cases, theories range from environmental confusion to human interference to psychological collapse. But unlike Dyatlov, no clear physical trauma or evidence of outside forces has ever been documented in Yuba County. For the families, decades have passed without answers. Some remain convinced the men encountered someone or something that terrified them. Others believe they simply got lost, and fear, confusion, and disability created a perfect storm of fatal choices.
Best way to describe it, it was abandoned, for lack of a better term. Windows were down, or at least one of the windows were down. The candies and milk and things that they had purchased at the store, those wrappers were in the car. There were some maps that were found in the car, which Madruga was kind of a map student. Nothing would indicate that there was any foul play or some type of heinous act that occurred.
What they all agree on is that the official record has never satisfied the truth. As we revisit this story, it's not just about 5 men lost in the snow. It's about the questions that echo louder as time moves on. It's about a car left with gas in the tank, a trail of bodies miles apart, a trailer with food untouched, and one name, Gary Mathias, still marked as missing. To this day, the case file remains open. No charges, no suspects, no clear resolution, only cold ground, vanished footprints, and the ache of not knowing. If you or someone you know is struggling with thoughts of hopelessness, call or text 988 in the US for free, 24/7 confidential support. Where are you watching from? Drop your locations in the comments below. If you made it to this point, drop your comment with, "I am still here." Let's see who is still watching. Case 2. The disappearance of Jean Spangler, 1949. In the fall of 1949, Los Angeles was a city lit by illusions. The movie Lots of Hollywood turned out dreams, while the streets beneath them told stories no camera dared to capture. Among the many chasing fame was Jean Elizabeth Spangler, a 26-year-old model, dancer, and aspiring actress. She wasn't famous yet, but she had one foot in the door, working as a background extra, taking classes at the Hollywood Academy of Dramatic Arts, and keeping up appearances in the right circles. But behind her radiant smile was a young mother raising her daughter with help from family, navigating a bitter custody dispute, and walking the tightrope between ambition and survival in post-war Los Angeles. On one October evening, she left her home and vanished, triggering one of Hollywood's most puzzling unsolved disappearances. Jean lived with her 5-year-old daughter, Christine, her mother, Florence, and her sister-in-law, Sophie, in the Park La Brea residential complex. The apartment was modest but safe, tucked in one of the city's more stable middle-class areas. On the evening of Friday, October 7, 1949, Jean told Sophie she had plans, first to meet her ex-husband, Dexter Benner, about a late child support payment, and then to work a night shoot at a local studio. Sophie agreed to watch Christine, assuming Jean would be home before morning. Jean left the apartment around 5 p.m., wearing a blue bolero top, a white skirt, and open-toed sandals, attire typical for a mild Los Angeles evening. At approximately 6 p.m., a clerk at a Wilshire District grocery store spotted Jean outside, looking as if she were waiting for someone. The clerk would later tell police that Jean glanced at her watch more than once and appeared calm, not distressed. That sighting, mundane as it seemed, became the last confirmed moment of Jean Spangler's life. She was never seen again. 2 days later, on October 9th, a park employee discovered a woman's black handbag lying in the brush near Fern Dell, a wooded section of Griffith Park. The purse had a torn strap and appeared to have been tossed or dropped. When police opened it, they found no wallet or money, but inside was a handwritten note that would shift the investigation into strange, speculative territory. The note read, "Kirk, can't wait any longer. Going to see Dr. Scott. It will work best this way while Mother is away." Sophie and Florence immediately identified the purse as Jean's. LAPD detectives quickly took over the case, launching an expansive but ultimately frustrating investigation. At first, they pursued the most logical lead, Dexter Benner, Jean's ex-husband. Their divorce had been acrimonious. Jean had accused him of domestic mistreatment in court proceedings, while he countered by alleging that Jean was unfit to raise their daughter. Although Jean had been awarded limited visitation, the legal battle never fully settled. When detectives questioned Benner, he denied seeing Jean that evening and claimed to know nothing about her whereabouts. His new wife backed his account. Despite some initial suspicion, police accepted his alibi. Still, questions lingered when, shortly after Jean's disappearance, Benner gained custody of Christine and left California, directly defying a court order that granted visitation to Jean's mother. Attention then turned to the note. Investigators focused on the names Kirk and Dr. Scott, hoping to identify the individuals Jean may have been referencing. Kirk led detectives to actor Kirk Douglas, who had recently finished filming Young Man with a Horn, in which Jean had worked as an uncredited extra. When first contacted, Douglas denied knowing Jean at all. Later, after confirming her presence on set, he adjusted his statement, saying he remembered talking and kidding around with her during the shoot. He also stated that he had been in Palm Springs at the time of her disappearance. Douglas provided witnesses, and his alibi was accepted by police. No evidence directly linked him to the note, and the investigation moved on. The second name, Dr. Scott, presented even greater challenges. Jean's friends told police she had confided in them about a possible pregnancy, estimated to be around 2 or 3 months. She had mentioned needing to take care of it quietly, a phrase understood in the social context of 1940s America, to suggest seeking an illegal abortion. At the time, the practice was criminalized and forced many women to seek underground providers. Dr. Scott, police believed, was likely an alias or code name for one such individual. Despite exhaustive searches through known reports, medical registries, and criminal informant files, investigators could not find anyone by that name tied to Jean. No clinics, midwives, or unlicensed practitioners matched the lead. As police chased dead ends, new names emerged from Jean's social life, names with connections far more dangerous than any struggling actor or discreet doctor. Jean had worked part-time as a dancer at various Los Angeles nightclubs. These venues, such as the Florentine Gardens and Earl Carroll's Theater, were glamorous on the surface but deeply intertwined with criminal enterprises. During this period, Los Angeles was under the quiet control of organized crime figures like Mickey Cohen, whose operations touched gambling, protection rackets, and night spot ownership. Jean was reportedly seen in the company of Davey Ogle, one of Cohen's known associates. Ogle was under federal indictment at the time. Curiously, Ogle also disappeared, just 2 days after Jean. The coincidence didn't escape the LAPD or the press. Some theorized that the two had fled together, either to avoid legal entanglements or for personal reasons. Others believed that Jean had overheard or seen something she shouldn't have, perhaps a conversation or transaction involving Cohen's people. LAPD detectives explored this theory, but no witness could place Jean and Ogle together during the final days before their disappearances. Ogle, like Jean, vanished without a trace. As the days turned to weeks, the case grew colder. Detectives canvassed Griffith Park, where Jean's purse had been found, using search teams on foot and horseback. The park stretched over 4,000 acres, a rugged landscape of canyons, trails, and secluded paths. Despite multiple sweeps, no additional evidence surfaced. The terrain proved too vast, and without cadaver dogs or aerial surveillance, tools not widely used at the time, police had little chance of finding Jean if she was no longer alive. Newspapers ran daily updates, and Jean's face appeared in hundreds of store windows across Southern California. Her mother, Florence, never gave up hope. She personally filed dozens of public appeals and corresponded with women's groups, churches, and investigative agencies. But despite her persistence, nothing brought her daughter home. Years later, Jean's name would be tied to another of Los Angeles's most infamous cases, the 1947 murder of Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia. The connection emerged from the work of Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective and son of Dr. George Hodel, a central suspect in the Black Dahlia case. Steve Hodel would later argue in books and interviews that his father may have also been involved in Jean Spangler's disappearance. Jean's purse, he claimed, had been found near a former Hodel property, and the profile of both women, young, aspiring actresses with mysterious social lives, seemed eerily parallel. However, no physical evidence or official record has ever confirmed a link between Dr. Hodel and Jean Spangler. Through the years, many speculated that Jean may have chosen to disappear, that she faked her own vanishing to escape legal or financial pressure. But to those who knew her, that theory felt wrong. She adored her daughter, was close to her family, and had been actively working. Her paychecks, all unclaimed, remained evidence to the contrary. There were no known withdrawals from her bank account, no sightings abroad, no phone calls traced to her name. More than 7 decades later, the mystery remains intact. No remains were ever found. No credible witness ever came forward. Jean Spangler's case has never been closed and is still listed by the California Department of Justice as an active missing person. Her daughter, Christine, was raised by others and has remained out of the public eye. Her mother, Florence, passed away without ever finding the truth. Today, the disappearance of Jean Spangler endures as one of Hollywood's most chilling unsolved cases, not because of blood or spectacle, but because of the haunting silence she left behind. A woman on the edge of opportunity, raising a daughter, fighting for agency in a city that offered little safety to women without fame or fortune, vanished in plain sight. The torn purse strap, the note, the conflicting accounts, the trails that led to nowhere. They are still there, waiting. Not every mystery fades with time. Some deepen. Jean Spangler walked out of her apartment into a city filled with light. Somewhere along the way, the light went out. If you or someone you know is in need of confidential support, call or text 988 in the U.S. for 24/7 help. Case 3. The Death of Elisa Lam, 2013. On January 26, 2013, Elisa Lam stepped through the doors of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was 21 years old, traveling solo across the west coast of the United States, and blogging every step of the journey. Her Tumblr was filled with honest reflections, vintage photos, bookstore visits, and moments of vulnerability that revealed more than just a tourist's eye. She had taken a Greyhound from San Diego and planned to continue north to Santa Cruz, documenting the trip as part of a personal project. Elisa was bright, articulate, and curious. She had dreams, like many her age, and a camera full of captured moments. But within a matter of days, she would vanish without explanation. Her story would soon become one of the most infamous internet mysteries of the decade. The Cecil Hotel was not her original destination, but it was affordable. Located at the intersection of Main and 7th Street, the building had recently undergone a partial rebranding as Stay on Main to attract a younger, more budget-conscious crowd. The hotel's history was complicated, infamous even. Since the 1930s, the building had been associated with unsolved cases, public health concerns, and a long list of tragedies. Yet to someone unfamiliar with its reputation, it may have seemed like any other low-cost option. Elisa checked in and was placed in a shared hostel-style room. However, hotel staff later moved her to a private unit after her roommates reported erratic behavior. She reportedly left notes for them that made little sense, locked herself in the bathroom, and laughed unpredictably. Still, nothing at that. Time suggested she posed a threat to herself or others. Elisa was last seen alive on January 31, 2013. She had planned to check out that morning. When she failed to call or text her parents in Vancouver, something she had done daily, they grew immediately concerned. After several unanswered messages, they contacted Los Angeles police. A formal missing person report was filed on February 1st, and within hours, LAPD officers were at the Cecil conducting interviews. Hotel staff remembered seeing her in the lobby, appearing cheerful and alone. Officers searched her room and common areas. Canine units were brought in, but no evidence of Elisa's whereabouts emerged. Her belongings, including her laptop, wallet, and clothes, were found untouched in her room. The search expanded. LAPD detectives posted flyers around downtown, reviewed building surveillance footage, and brought in additional officers to assist. Still, no credible sightings came in. 1 week passed, then 2. Frustration grew. Officers had combed every hallway, stairwell, and even parts of the rooftop, but found nothing. On February 13th, as a last effort to stir public tips, the department made the unusual decision to release surveillance footage taken from the hotel's elevator. What the public saw stunned everyone. The grainy video, time-stamped January 31st, showed Elisa stepping into the elevator alone. She appeared disoriented. She pressed multiple floor buttons. The doors didn't close. She hesitated, peered out cautiously, then darted back in. At one point, she flattened herself against the wall. Her arms moved in sudden, jerky motions. Some viewers described them as deliberate. Others said it looked like she was swatting at something. Her fingers twisted and gestured as if speaking in sign. She appeared to whisper or speak, though no audio was recorded. After several strange movements, she stepped out of the elevator and out of frame. The doors closed a moment later. The clip went viral within hours. It was uploaded to YouTube by news outlets and reshared across forums, social platforms, and blogs. Thousands of amateur investigators weighed in, analyzing frame rates, claiming to spot shadows, suggesting timestamps were altered. Some believed she was fleeing someone. Others insisted she was interacting with an unseen force. Many said she looked like she was under the influence of something. The video, surreal and haunting, became a digital phenomenon. But the person at the center of it, Elisa, was still missing. Then, on February 19th, nearly 3 weeks after she vanished, hotel guests began complaining about the water. They said it tasted odd. It looked cloudy. Some reported low pressure. A maintenance worker was dispatched to the building's rooftop to check the water tanks, which supplied the hotel's showers, sinks, and cafe. What he found changed the case forever. Inside one of the 4 cylindrical cisterns was Elisa Lam's body. The maintenance hatch on top of the tank had been left ajar. Her clothes were floating nearby. The discovery was devastating. Firefighters were called to the scene, but the tank was too narrow to remove her body through the top. The tank had to be drained and physically cut open from the side. Only then could authorities retrieve her remains. Forensic teams sealed the scene. The entire rooftop was cordoned off. The LAPD reclassified the investigation under their robbery-homicide division, standard protocol in unexplained deaths. Attention shifted quickly to the question, how did she get onto the roof? The main rooftop door was locked and alarmed. Hotel staff confirmed that any unauthorized entry would have triggered an alert at the front desk. However, further investigation revealed another access point, a fire escape on the exterior of the building. A person could have reached it by exiting through a side window, crossing a hallway ledge, and climbing the metal stairs to the roof. It was dangerous, but possible. Surveillance cameras did not cover these outer areas. The water tanks were not meant to be opened casually. Each stood over 8 feet tall and was positioned on a raised platform. Investigators examined the platform and found footprints consistent with the style of shoes Elisa was last seen wearing. The hatch itself had no lock. The cistern was about half full at the time she was found. The interior was smooth metal, making it nearly impossible to climb out unaided. Still, investigators found no signs of foul play, no injuries, no bruising, no forced trauma. Her phone was never recovered. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released its final report in late February. The medical examiner concluded the cause of death was accidental drowning. There were no signs of external injury. Toxicology results showed only trace amounts of Elisa's prescribed medication for bipolar disorder and depression, indicating she had either reduced or missed several doses in the days prior to her death. No alcohol or illegal drugs were found in her system. The coroner noted that her mental state may have played a role in her behavior and disorientation. Online, the backlash was immediate. Many refused to accept the ruling. If her death was an accident, they asked, why hadn't she cried out? Why didn't the dogs detect her scent on the rooftop? Why wasn't the tank checked sooner? LAPD investigators clarified that the canine units used were not trained for aerial scenting, and that the tanks had been visually inspected from the surrounding platform during the initial search, but were not opened because there was no evidence at the time suggesting they needed to be. The open hatch was small and easily missed without climbing the platform. Meanwhile, digital communities continued dissecting the case. From Reddit threads to YouTube breakdowns, the theories multiplied. Some speculated about a hidden pursuer caught just off frame. Others claimed paranormal involvement. A few insisted the elevator footage had been tampered with. No theory offered definitive proof, only more questions. In this vacuum of uncertainty, speculation became a substitute for truth. As the mystery grew, so did the need for a more human perspective. Elisa had been a student at the University of British Columbia. She had struggled with her mental health, a fact she spoke about openly on her Tumblr blog, Nouvelle Nouveau. Her writing was introspective, vulnerable, and thoughtful. She wrote about isolation, recovery, connection, and hope. Her trip to California was meant to be an adventure, something healing. What started as a journey of self-discovery became her final chapter. The case sparked broader discussions around travel safety, mental health awareness, and the treatment of missing persons in the media. Some criticized how quickly the public turned her story into entertainment. Others defended the crowd-sourced attention, arguing that it kept the case from being forgotten. Still, her story became a cautionary tale about how easily facts can be distorted when the internet takes over. In 2015, Elisa's parents filed a civil lawsuit against the Cecil Hotel, claiming negligence in failing to secure the water tanks and rooftop. The hotel's legal team argued that Elisa had accessed restricted areas on her own and that no safety standard could have reasonably anticipated her actions. The court ultimately sided with the hotel, and the case was closed. The lawsuit never altered the official cause of death, but it did raise concerns about building safety protocols and how mental health emergencies are handled in transient spaces. In 2021, the case resurfaced in popular culture through Netflix's 4-part documentary Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. The series featured interviews with detectives, hotel staff, online sleuths, and journalists. While it attempted to ground the story in verified facts, it also exposed how the flood of internet speculation shaped public understanding, sometimes obscuring the real person at the center of it all. One of the documentary's strongest takeaways was a reminder: Elisa Lam wasn't a puzzle to solve. She was someone's daughter, someone who hoped the world could be kind. As of 2025, the case is closed. The final ruling remains accidental drowning. No criminal charges were filed, no foul play was detected. But the story has left a lasting impression, not just because of how Elisa died, but because of how the world responded. Her name became a headline. Her final moments became a clip, viewed millions of times. And her absence reminded us how quickly a young woman can be lost in a place full of people. Elisa Lam wanted to see more of the world. She captured moments of joy, quiet introspection, and curiosity along the way. We may never know exactly what happened in those final hours, or what she thought she was escaping, or reaching for. But what remains is the need for gentler conversations around invisible struggles and the responsibility to protect those who are vulnerable, even when they don't ask for it. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, confidential support is available. Call or text 988 in the US for free help 24/7. If you are enjoying this content, like, subscribe, and share to your loved ones to protect them from the same tragic happening to them in the future. Case 4. The disappearance of Bryce Laspisa, 2013. Bryce David Laspisa was 19 years old when the journey home became his last known trail. Tall, red-haired, artistic, and friendly, he had moved with his parents from Illinois to Laguna Niguel, California, and enrolled at Sierra College in Rockland for the fall semester of 2013. To those who knew him, Bryce had promise. He studied graphic design, had friends, hobbies, an easy laugh. But in the weeks before his disappearance, his behavior shifted in ways that would later puzzle investigators. Friends reported heavier drinking, and Bryce admitted to taking Vivance, an ADHD stimulant not prescribed to him, just to stay up late playing video games. He gave away his Xbox, his diamond earrings, and told his girlfriend simply, "You'd be better off without me." The confluence of these actions, once dismissed as erratic youth, would loom over the case. On the afternoon of August 29, 2013, Bryce departed from Rockland, north of Sacramento, heading south toward Laguna Niguel, a drive of roughly 6 hours. Instead, over the next 24 hours, his progress slowed, meandered, stalled. Insurance records showed that the roadside assistance service was called to deliver fuel near Buttonwillow in Kern County around 9 a.m. that day, although he left his girlfriend's home before midnight. A small town attendant later said he found Bryce parked in the same spot hours later. According to service records and cell tower data, by early evening he had still barely moved. Later that night, law enforcement stopped Bryce at a rest area in Kern County. He passed the field sobriety test, and no alcohol or drugs were found in his vehicle. Officials noted he seemed cooperative and lucid. He told his mother he was tired and pulled over to rest. At 2:08 a.m. on August 30th, he phoned his mother from a paved turnout on Interstate 5 and said, "I pulled off to rest. Call in the morning." It was the last known contact. Several hours later, between about 4:20 and 5:15 a.m., his beige 2003 Toyota Highlander was discovered off Lake Hughes Road near Castaic Lake in Los Angeles County. The SUV lay on its side in a 15-foot ravine. Its rear window was shattered. The vehicle still contained Bryce's phone, laptop, wallet, and other personal belongings. Bloodstains were present, but not in quantity to indicate a major injury. Investigators concluded the vehicle had left the lake access ramp and descended the embankment. Within hours, a large search operation was underway. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, along with volunteers, cadaver dogs, helicopter units, boat teams, and dive crews scoured the lake and surrounding brush. The dogs traced Bryce's scent across a bridge toward a nearby truck stop, then the trail vanished. Divers dredged Castaic Lake. Helicopters scanned ridges and chaparral. Nothing of Bryce was found. The terrain, dense, poorly lit, remote, presented serious obstacles. One former investigator later commented, "We had one shot at this after nightfall and we missed it." As the days turned into weeks, the question shifted from "Where is Bryce?" to "What happened first? The car crash or the disappearance?" Some believe he drove deliberately off the embankment. Others hold he exited the vehicle and walked off, perhaps lost or overwhelmed. The broken rear window raised major questions. Did Bryce break it himself? Did someone force him? With valuables inside the car and the wallet untouched, there was no obvious sign of robbery, and the faint bloodstains didn't match serious trauma, but they did signal something happened at the scene. Friends and family offered voices in the narrative, adding weight and poignancy. His father, Michael Laspisa, told reporters, "Every day you go through the whole scenario of the 85 possible things that could have caused it." A voice worn by years of waiting. A mother later said she expected to hug her son within a day, and still hasn't. Meanwhile, investigators tracked Bryce's odd pre-disappearance choices, the giving away of prized belongings, the late-night fuel stop with no movement, the final call to his mother. A high-functioning young man, apparently in no immediate crisis, yet wandering southward with no destination spoken. Analysts interviewed by podcasts noted the possibility of medication misuse. Vyvanse is amphetamine-based and can trigger psychosis when misused, while law enforcement cautioned the stop in Kern County showed no overt signs of impairment. The contradiction deepens. Over time, age-progressed images of Bryce have been released by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and pictorial renderings by amateur sleuths. The case remains active with the Orange County and Los Angeles County Sheriff's offices. Even now, more than a decade later, the record shows the vehicle, the trail, and the uncertainty, but no confirmed sighting of Bryce himself. Public theory grew around several possibilities. One line of reasoning held that Bryce planned to stage his disappearance. He parked his vehicle intentionally, broke the rear window, and walked away to begin a new life. Some internet forums took this further. His parents' reaction was lukewarm. He gave away possessions. He didn't pick up incoming calls. Yet investigators pointed out that Bryce would have needed identity proof, money, logistical support, and nothing indicated such preparation. Another theory posited he died by misadventure in the woods or lake, that his crash was genuine and he walked into danger thereafter. And the third theory suggested foul play. It would explain the scent trail to a truck stop. But no direct evidence supported either way. A few stark moments stand out in the timeline. The stranded vehicle location where a service truck found Bryce parked for hours. The sobriety check that concluded he was fine. The moment his car was found, and still there was no Bryce. A gap between known events, and a scent trail that ends in a truck stop hush. In storytelling terms, these are the beats that build suspense, but in real life, they translate into years of unanswered grief. Search teams walked the same ridges, families grieved in the same home, and still the silence of Bryce's absence remains. For law enforcement, The case highlights systemic limits in missing adult investigations. At 19, Bryce didn't fall under a minor's automatic priority in some jurisdictions. Terrain and weather hampered outdoor teams. The scent trail's sudden termination showed how quickly a lead can vanish. The wreck was intact enough to suggest he exited under his own power, but then vanished. To this day, no DNA, no trace, no definitive ruling, and no closure. In the end, what stands out most is not the vehicle or the ravine, but the voice of a mother who expects a call, 2:08 a.m. "Hi Mom, I'm pulling over," and nothing thereafter. What remains is a youthful promise frozen in time, turning hope into enduring presence. Bryce Laspisa's case reminds us that disappearance investigations are not always about solving. They are about enduring. Because when someone disappears without a trace, the question isn't simply where they went. It's how long hope can survive the silence. If you or someone you know is in crisis and considering ending their own life, help is available. Call or text 988 in the US for free. Confidential support 24/7. Case 5. The disappearance of Kristen Modafferi, 1997. Kristen Modafferi was just 18 years old when she vanished from San Francisco on June 23, 1997. A bright college student from North Carolina, she had recently finished her first year at North Carolina State University and traveled west to attend a photography course at UC Berkeley. She arrived full of hope, ready to explore a new city and pursue her interests. She had rented a room in Oakland and taken a part-time job at Spinelli's coffee shop inside the Crocker Galleria in downtown San Francisco. Everything seemed in place for a summer of growth and independence. Then, just 3 weeks after arriving, she disappeared without a trace. That afternoon, Kristen clocked out of her shift around 3 p.m. She was last seen on the second floor of the Crocker Galleria around 3:45 p.m., speaking with an unidentified blonde woman. Just before this, surveillance footage captured Kristen withdrawing money from a nearby ATM. She had told coworkers she planned to visit either Baker Beach or Land's End and had asked for directions. She also mentioned there might be a party happening near the coast that day. From that moment on, her trail vanished. Initially, there was no alarm. Kristen's roommates in Oakland didn't find it unusual that she didn't come home right away. It wasn't until several days passed, with no calls to her family, no return to work, and no signs of activity on her bank account, that people grew concerned. Her parents, Bob and Debbie Modafferi, flew to California and began searching the city themselves. They put up flyers, interviewed people, and worked closely with authorities. But from the beginning, the case faced setbacks. Because Kristen was legally an adult, her disappearance was initially classified as a possible runaway. This delayed the urgency of the police response in the critical first 48 hours. When investigators began to dig into Kristen's belongings, they found something strange in her room. A personal ad clipped from a Bay Area newspaper. The ad was addressed to females seeking female friends to explore the city, go hiking, and attend concerts. It had been circled in pen. No one knew whether Kristen had placed the ad herself or responded to it, and the person behind it was never identified. The possibility that she had met up with someone through this ad became a key theory early in the case. Bloodhounds were brought in to track Kristen's scent from the Crocker Galleria. The dogs followed her trail to a nearby bus stop and eventually out to Sutro Heights Park, near Land's End, and the cliffs overlooking the Pacific. That location matched her earlier inquiry about visiting the beach, but the trail ended there. No one saw her arrive. No one saw her leave. Her scent, and all leads, vanished at the edge of the coastline. As weeks passed with no contact, Kristen's case was eventually reclassified from a runaway to a missing person. The FBI joined the Oakland Police Department in the investigation. Kristen's face appeared on national television and posters throughout the Bay Area. Despite intense efforts, authorities found no definitive evidence pointing to what had happened. Her bank account remained untouched. There were no signs of a struggle, no calls, and no farewell notes. The unknown blonde woman seen speaking with her in the mall was never found, despite media appeals and composite sketches. To this day, her identity remains one of the central mysteries in the case. The lack of hard evidence didn't stop Kristen's parents. They continued to work tirelessly, hiring private investigators and following every possible lead. Over the years, sightings were reported across the country, from California to the Midwest to Canada. None of them were confirmed. Some tips claimed Kristen had changed her identity or joined a religious group. Others said she had been abducted. Each one was followed with hope and ended in heartbreak. Then in 2015, nearly 2 decades after her disappearance, a team of searchers brought a cadaver dog to the Oakland home where Kristen had rented a room in 1997. The dog alerted in the basement. Forensic tests were conducted, and while no human remains were found, chemical traces indicated the potential presence of human decomposition. Later DNA testing reportedly revealed mitochondrial material that shared characteristics with Kristen's maternal line. However, these results were not definitive. No physical remains were ever recovered, and authorities could not conclusively connect the findings to Kristen. The homeowner at the time, John Onuma, had once been questioned during the early stages of the investigation. He had reportedly made anonymous calls to a local TV station suggesting that Kristen had been harmed by 2 women who worked at a nightclub. That story turned out to be false. Onuma later admitted he made it up out of spite over a dispute involving his girlfriend. Police investigated thoroughly, but ultimately found no evidence linking him or his claims to Kristen's disappearance. Still, the cadaver dog alert nearly 20 years later reignited public interest and cast new questions over the original investigation. Amid all this, the Modafferi family pushed for legislative change. They recognized that there were too few resources available for families of missing adults. Most support systems at the time were tailored toward missing children or elderly individuals, and adults between 18 and 64 often fell through the cracks. Their advocacy led to the creation of Kristen's Law, passed by Congress in 2000. The law provided federal funding to assist organizations searching for missing adults, ensuring that other families wouldn't face the same institutional delays. Despite these efforts, the case remains open and unsolved. The official investigation is still under the jurisdiction of the Oakland Police Department, with support from the FBI. Over the years, Kristen's parents have maintained a website, coordinated media outreach, and pursued new forensic technologies, hoping that even a small break might lead to answers. They remain committed to finding out what happened to their daughter. Kristen Modafferi was not reckless. She didn't run away. She was a young woman exploring a new city, taking summer classes, and working a part-time job. Her disappearance raised national awareness about the safety of independent young adults and the structural gaps in missing persons investigations. The unresolved questions in her case continue to haunt those who followed it. Who was the blonde woman? Why did her scent lead to the cliffs and stop? Could she have met someone through that personal ad? And why, after all these years, has no solid evidence ever emerged? She was smart, responsible, and full of ambition. Her story is a reminder that even in broad daylight, with cameras nearby and crowds all around, someone can still vanish without explanation. It also shows how a family's love can persist through decades of uncertainty, fighting for answers long after the headlines have faded. Kristen's parents have never stopped believing that someone knows something, whether it was a chance encounter, a prearranged meeting, or a hidden danger she didn't recognize. They believe the truth is still out there, waiting to be uncovered. If you have any information related to Kristen Modafferi's case, contact the Oakland Police Department or the FBI. Even the smallest tip could matter, and if you or a loved one is struggling, help is available. In the U.S., call or text 988 for confidential support. Thank you for your incredible support. This channel thrives because of viewers like you. Join our YouTube membership today to unlock exclusive perks, enjoy premium content, and help us keep creating the stories you love.